The argument you never saw coming last night, your name was spoken in a room you were never meant to enter. Voices were raised, accusations flew, emotions cracked open. And the reason was not what you did, it was what they feel. There was an explosive fight about you because someone could not keep pretending anymore. The truth they tried to bury, they said they were indifferent. They acted unbothered. They played it cool. But inside, something was burning. The lie became heavier than the truth. And when pressure builds, it erupts. Why your presence triggers them, you walk into rooms and shift atmospheres without trying. You speak and people feel exposed. You stay silent and they still feel watched. That is not arrogance, that is awareness. The mark of the chosen, being chosen, does not mean being perfect. It means being different in a way that unsettles others. You see through masks. You sense what is unspoken. And that makes people uncomfortable. When lies collide with feelings, they told everyone they did not care. They laughed at the idea of you mattering, but their actions betrayed them, and someone finally called it out. The fight was never about you, it looked like conflict over words. It sounded like anger over situations, but beneath it all was emotion, raw, hidden, denied emotion. The burden of being seen. Chosen ones carry a strange burden. You see what others hide from themselves. You feel shifts before they happen. You notice tension before anyone speaks, and that awareness exposes the truth. Why they pretend not to care, because caring gives you power, because feelings make them vulnerable, because admitting attraction, admiration, or even jealousy would shift the dynamic. So they lie, but lies have expiration dates. Spiritual awakening and rejection. When you awaken, you stop playing small. You stop chasing approval. You stop shrinking to fit insecure spaces. And that threatens those who rely on illusion. The energy you carry, it is calm but intense, quiet but undeniable, grounded but powerful. People feel it even if they cannot explain it. When denial turns to chaos, at first they suppress it, then they mock it, then they deny it publicly until someone challenges the lie, and the explosion happens. Signs you are the one they cannot ignore. You are often misunderstood. You are talked about when you are not around. You sense tension before conflict, and your intuition is rarely wrong. The spiritual war of emotions. This is not just romance. It is not just ego. It is spiritual tension. When someone resists what their soul recognizes, it creates internal war. Why society silences the different? Society rewards sameness. It celebrates comfort. It avoids depth. But chosen ones bring depth whether invited or not. The cost of authenticity: you refuse to fake connections. You refuse to dim your light. You refuse to pretend not to know. And that authenticity becomes a mirror. Mirrors make people angry because mirrors reveal flaws. They expose insecurity. They reflect hidden desires, and not everyone is ready to face themselves. They fought because the mask slipped. Someone noticed the inconsistency. Someone pointed out the obsession. Someone questioned the denial, and the carefully built image cracked. You did not cause the storm. You did not manipulate emotions. You did not create confusion. You simply existed. And your existence challenged their narrative. The loneliness of the aware. Being aware can feel isolating. You see what others ignore. You feel what others suppress. You understand dynamics without explanation, and that distance can hurt. Why your name? Carries weight. When your name enters a conversation, energy shifts. Some grow defensive, some grow curious, some grow emotional. That is influence without effort. The hidden admiration. Not all resistance is hate. Sometimes it is admiration wrapped in pride. Sometimes it is longing disguised as indifference. Sometimes it is fear disguised as anger. Spiritual maturity and patience. As you awaken, you learn restraint. You do not react to every rumor. You do not chase every explanation. You let truth unfold on its own, and it always does. The power of silence. While they argued, you were unaware. While they defended their pride, you were at peace. Your silence is strength. It speaks without shouting. Why they cannot escape you? It is not obsession. It is resonance. Something about your spirit stays with them, even when they try to dismiss it. The test of emotional courage. It takes courage to admit feelings. It takes humility to drop ego. It takes strength to tell the truth. Not everyone has that strength. The awakned. Do not chase validation. You do not need confirmation. You do not need applause. You do not need secret arguments to prove your value. Your worth is not up for debate. What this really means, it means you matter more than they admit. It means your presence is impactful. It means your energy is unforgettable, but it does not mean you control outcomes. Stay grounded in truth. Do not let ego inflate you. Do not let gossip define you. Do not let hidden drama distract you. Stay centered. The higher perspective, everything reveals itself in time. Hidden emotions surface. False narratives collapse. And truth stands firm without force. You do not have to push it. Embrace your difference. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to be easily understood. You were meant to awaken, and awakening disrupts comfort. The call to rise, if this message resonates, it is not coincidence. It is confirmation that you are not alone in this journey. Stand firm in who you are. Like this video if you refuse to shrink for anyone. Comment, "I stand in truth," if you choose authenticity over approval. And subscribe to Return to Awakening if you are ready to fully embrace who you were created to be. The emotional earthquake you feel. While you were focused on your growth, something was shaking behind closed doors. Words were exchanged with intensity. Old emotions resurfaced. And your name became the center of gravity in a conflict you never asked for. When suppressed feelings turn volcanic, people can hide admiration for a while. They can disguise attachment as annoyance. They can label curiosity as criticism. But suppressed emotion builds pressure, and pressure eventually explodes. The danger of pretending not to care. Indifference is easy to perform. Detachment is easy to fake. But the body never lies. Energy never lies. And souls recognize what mouths refuse to say. You are not crazy for SNSING it. You felt the shift long ago. The sudden coldness. The awkward tension. The forced distance. Your intuition whispered before the fight ever happened. The spiritual sensitivity of the chosen. Chosen ones are highly perceptive. You notice eye contact that lingers too long. You feel jealousy in subtle tones. You sense admiration hidden in sarcasm. That awareness is not imagination. It is discernment. Why they couldn't hold it in any longer? Because someone confronted them. Someone questioned their obsession. Someone noticed the contradiction between their words and their actions. And the lie began to collapse under scrutiny. When ego defends the heart. Ego hates exposure. It hates vulnerability. It hates surrender. So instead of admitting feelings, it attacks. It argues. It denies louder. The role of pride in the conflict. Pride says, "I don't need them." Pride says, "They don't matter." But the heart whispers something else. And when pride and heart clash, chaos follows. You were the catalyst, not the cause. There is a difference. A catalyst reveals what already exists. A cause creates something new. You did not create their feelings. You simply activated what was already there. The magnetic nature of your energy. You do not chase. You do not beg. You do not compete. And that natural self-containment is magnetic. It draws attention without effort. Why they talk about you in your absence? Because your presence lingers even when you are gone. Because unresolved emotions demand discussion. Because denying something powerful requires constant reinforcement. Silence from you creates noise in them. The shadow side of attraction. Not all attraction looks soft. Sometimes it appears as irritation. Sometimes it shows up as criticism. Sometimes it hides behind jokes. But strong emotion always finds a leak. Spiritual awakening, INTNSIFIES connections. When you awaken, your energy sharpens. You stop tolerating superficial bonds. You operate from depth. And depth forces others to confront what they truly feel. Why your growth, DISTURBS them. You are evolving. You are becoming more disciplined, more self-aware, more aligned, and growth exposes stagnation in others. The uncomfortable mirror effect. Your confidence reflects their insecurity. Your calm reflects their chaos. Your detachment reflects their attachment. And mirrors are rarely welcomed. When truth STRTS leaking through CRACKS. Someone noticed the extra attention, the way they react when you are mentioned, the defensiveness that makes no logical sense, and the cracks in their denial widened. You are humanity unmoved. While they argued, while they defended their pride, while emotions spiraled, you stayed focused on your path. That composure is power. The spiritual test in this moment. This is not about revenge. It is not about validation. It is about maturity. Can you stay grounded knowing your impact? Can you remain humble despite the chaos around your name? The difference between attention and significance. Attention is loud and temporary. Significance is quiet and lasting. You are not just talked about. You are felt. That is deeper than noise. Why they struggle to admit it. Because admitting feelings means losing control. Because acknowledging admiration means lowering defenses. Because recognizing connection means vulnerability. And vulnerability feels risky. The power of emotional restraint. You could confront them. You could expose everything. You could demand answers. But true strength is not reactive. It is controlled. The AWKNED walk differently. You move with awareness. You speak with intention. You observe more than you reveal. That quiet discipline intimidates those who rely on drama. What this REVALS about your path. You are not invisible. You are not insignificant. You are not overlooked. Even when they pretend, your presence leaves an imprint. And imprints cannot be erased with denial, the invisible tension that follows you. Have you ever walked into a room and felt it shift? Conversations pause for half a second. Eyes glance, then quickly look away. Energy tightens, even if smiles remain. That is not coincidence. That is impact. When emotions become too loud to hide. They try to bury it under sarcasm. They try to disguise it as indifference. They even convinced themselves it was nothing. But emotions do not disappear because they are ignored. They grow in silence. The spiritual weight of your name. Your name carries frequency. It triggers memory. It stirs feeling. It activates something deeper than logic. And when your name enters conversation, composure weakens. Why someone defended you too strongly? In that explosive fight, someone spoke up. Too passionately. Too personally. Too emotionally. And that intensity exposed everything. The contradiction that could not be explained. How do you defend someone you claim not to care about? How do you argue over someone you say is irrelevant? How do you react so strongly if there is nothing there? Contradiction reveals truth. The AWAKNED soul is not easily forgotten. You leave impressions without trying. You speak words that linger. You give looks that awaken curiosity. You create shifts that cannot be undone. That is why they cannot simply move on. The war between logic and feeling. Logic tells them to dismiss you. Pride tells them to deny you. But feeling pulls them back. And that internal war spills outward when triggered. Why you attract extreme reactions. People either deeply respect you or quietly resent you. They either feel inspired or intimidated. They either lean closer or pull away. Indifference is rare around the chosen. The emotional investment they refuse to name. They analyze your moves. They interpret your silence. They replay your words. That level of attention is not random. It is attachment hiding behind ego. When jealousy disguises itself as critique. Sometimes the fight was not just about feelings. It was about fear. Fear that you are growing. Fear that you are attracting attention. Fear that you are stepping into power. Spiritual awakening makes you unapologetic. You no longer dim your intelligence. You no longer shrink your ambition. You no longer soften your presence for comfort. And that unapologetic authenticity shakes fragile foundations. The role of divine timing. Everything unfolds when it is meant to. The lie lasted only as long as it could. The mask stayed on until pressure became unbearable. Truth always surfaces when timing is aligned. You were being discussed while you were elevating. While they argued, you were building. While they denied, you were healing. While they projected, you were progressing. Growth makes noise in places you cannot hear. The difference between obsession and recognition. Obsession is chaotic and draining. Recognition is powerful and unsettling. Sometimes what they feel is recognition. Their spirit recognizes yours. And that realization frightens them. Why chosen ONES often face secret admirers? Because your light is strong. Because your depth is rare. Because your discipline is visible. Not everyone has the courage to approach light directly. The cost of being misunderstood. You may be labeled cold. You may be called distant. You may be misunderstood as arrogant. But often you are simply self-contained. And self-containment is powerful. When the fight became personal, voices rose not over facts but feelings. Accusations were fueled by emotion, not logic. Someone's tone cracked. Someone's mask slipped. And truth flashed for a moment. You do not need to witness it to know it happened. Your intuition confirms what your eyes never saw. You feel shifts in behavior. You notice sudden changes in tone. Energy speaks louder than reports. The spiritual law of revealing. What is hidden will surface. What is denied will be exposed. What is suppressed will erupt. And what is true will stand. Why you must remain centered. This is not a moment for ego. It is not a moment for pride. It is a moment for awareness. Stay balanced. Stay disciplined. The power of letting truth defend you. You do not need to argue your value. You do not need to defend your presence. You do not need to prove your impact. Truth defends itself over time. What this situation is teaching you. Not everyone who resists you dislikes you. Not every critic is indifferent. Not every argument is hatred. Sometimes conflict is unexpressed emotion searching for release. The AWAKNED do not seek revenge. You do not expose them. You do not embarrass them. You do not exploit their vulnerability. You rise above it. And that restraint elevates you even higher, the silent power you hold. There is strength in knowing and not reacting. There is authority in awareness without announcement. You understand more than you reveal. And that quiet control unsettles those who operate from impulse. Why your calm feels like pressure to them. Your composure forces them to confront themselves. Your silence gives them space to overthink. Your distance removes the distraction they relied on. And in that space, their true feelings get louder. The energy of unfinished emotion. Unspoken feelings do not dissolve. They linger in glances. They hide in tension. They echo in arguments that seem unrelated. But at the center, it is still about you. When their words don't match their behavior, they say you are irrelevant. Yet they monitor your moves. They claim you do not matter. Yet your absence affects their mood. Behavior always reveals what pride conceals. The spiritual responsibility of being chosen. Being chosen is not about attention. It is about alignment. It is about carrying yourself with integrity, even when unseen. Especially when unseen. Why you must guard your heart. Not everyone who feels strongly is ready for honesty. Not everyone who is drawn to you is healed. Emotional intensity without maturity creates chaos. Discernment protects your peace. The lesson in their explosion. Their fight was a release. A crack in denial. A moment where truth almost surfaced. But your lesson is not to chase that crack. It is to observe it. The difference between being desired and being destined. Desire is emotional. Destiny is spiritual. Some are drawn to you emotionally, but only a few are aligned with you spiritually. Know the distinction. Why envy can masquerade as concern. Sometimes they criticize your path and call it advice. Sometimes they question your growth and call it worry. But beneath it may be envy. Because you are becoming what they hesitated to be. The growth they witnessed in you. You are not who you were months ago. You are more disciplined, more focused, more detached from drama. And that evolution intimidates those who stayed the same. When your value becomes undeniable. At first they overlook you. Then they question you. Then they watch you. And finally they argue about you. That progression reveals impact. The dangerous combination of attraction and pride. Attraction pulls them toward you. Pride pushes them away. The tension between the two creates instability. And instability erupts when challenged. You are not responsible for their inner conflict. You did not create their ego. You did not design their fear. You did not force their denial. You simply stood in your truth. The AWAKNED path, REQUIRES detachment. You must not feed on their attention. You must not be flattered by their chaos. You must not be distracted by their conflict. Stay committed to your higher path. Why your intuition feels sharper now. Because experience refined it. Because silence trained it. Because observation strengthened it. You can now sense authenticity from a distance. The role of patience in power. Real power is patient. It does not rush revelation. It does not demand confession. It allows time to expose what pressure cannot. When truth begins to haunt them. Denial requires constant effort. Pretending demands performance. But truth waits quietly. And over time, it becomes heavier than the lie. You are stepping into a new level. This situation is not random. It is confirmation. You are entering a space where your presence carries more weight. And weight creates reaction. The importance of remaining humble. Do not let this inflate you. Do not let hidden admiration become ego fuel. Stay grounded. Stay grateful. Stay aligned. Why some connections are meant to reveal, not remain. Not everyone enters your life to stay. Some enter to awaken emotion. Some enter to trigger growth. Some enter to expose truth. Discern the purpose. The strength of emotional discipline. You could respond. You could confront. You could demand clarity. But emotional discipline is choosing timing over impulse. And you are learning that mastery, the unseen shift in power. Something changed after that fight. Even if you never heard a word about it. Even if no one admitted it. The dynamic shifted. Truth, once cracked open, cannot fully close again. When they REALIZEDU are not easily REPLACD. They tried distraction. They tried comparison. They tried convincing themselves there are many like you. But deep down they know your energy is distinct. The difference between common and called. Common energy blends in. Called energy stands out. Common presence is forgotten. Called presence leaves a mark. You were never designed to be ordinary. Why your absence speaks louder than your words. When you pull back, silence expands. When you detach, curiosity increases. When you focus on yourself, they feel the distance. Absence reveals value. The spiritual law of exposure. Hidden motives surface in pressure. Hidden feelings surface in conflict. Hidden attachments surface in arguments. That fight was pressure revealing truth. When someone loses control of the narrative, they built a story about you. A controlled version. A minimized version. But emotion disrupted the script. And the narrative slipped from their hands. You were never meant to chase explanations. If they feel it, they must confront it. If they deny it, they must carry it. If they suppress it, they must manage it. It is not your burden to fix their honesty. The AWAKNED walk with quiet certainty. You do not need confirmation to know your worth. You do not need confession to feel secure. You trust what you sense. And that trust strengthens your posture. Why strong SOULS provoke strong REACTUNS. Weak energy ignores. Strong energy reacts. You do not provoke indifference. You provoke intensity. Intensity is proof of impact. The danger of emotional projection. When they feel deeply but refuse ownership. They project. They accuse. They distort. Projection is unclaimed emotion searching for escape. You must not internalize their chaos. Their confusion is not your flaw. Their denial is not your rejection. Their fight is not your failure. Stay clear. Stay centered. The maturity you are developing. You are learning to observe without attachment, to feel without reacting, to know without exposing. This is spiritual adulthood. Why the chosen are often misjudged. Because depth intimidates the shallow. Because discipline unsettles the impulsive. Because clarity threatens confusion. Misunderstanding is often the price of evolution. The real reason it became explosive. Someone could no longer pretend. Someone felt cornered by truth. Someone reacted from wounded pride. Explosions happen when masks crack. You are entering a season of revelation. More truths will surface. More dynamics will become clear. More hidden emotions will reveal themselves. Not because you chase them, but because your presence demands authenticity. The balance between confidence and humility. Recognize your influence, but do not weaponize it. Acknowledge your impact, but do not become arrogant. Power without humility collapses. When they begin to question themselves. After the fight, silence followed. Reflection followed. Regret may have followed. Because once emotion escapes, it cannot be denied internally. You remain untouched. Your peace remains intact. Your path remains focused. Your energy remains stable. That stability is your greatest strength. Why this is a confirmation, not a distraction. It confirms your growth. It confirms your magnetism. It confirms your spiritual weight. But it must not distract you from your mission. The higher calling above emotion. You are not here to collect admirers. You are not here to entertain ego battles. You are here to evolve, to awaken, to rise. The moment they realized it was real. After the noise faded, something uncomfortable remained. Silence. Not peaceful silence. Reflective silence. The kind that forces someone to replay every word they spoke about you. When pride collides with truth. Pride is loud in public, but truth whispers in private. And when they were alone, without an audience, truth spoke clearly. You mattered more than they admitted. The internal conversation they cannot escape. They ask themselves why your name triggers emotion, why your image lingers in their mind, why your absence feels heavier than expected. Questions expose what denial tries to hide. You are a lesson they did not expect. Some people enter lives as comfort. Others enter as awakening. You entered as a mirror and a test. And not everyone is prepared for that level of encounter. Why your restraint confuses them. They expected reaction. They expected confrontation. They expected you to defend yourself. But your stillness disrupted their expectation. When energy is not reciprocity, it reveals itself. If they truly did not care, there would be no tension. If you were irrelevant, there would be no argument. Emotion only erupts where investment exists. And investment cannot be faked forever. The spiritual weight of self-control. You chose dignity over drama. You chose silence over spectacle. You chose growth over gossip. That choice elevated you beyond the chaos. Why they feel exposed around you? Because you observe without judgment. You listen without reacting. You see patterns without announcing them. And that quiet awareness feels like exposure to the unhealed. The difference between being talked about and being discussed. Being talked about is noise. Being discussed is significance. You were not casual conversation. You were the center of emotional debate. When realization turns into restlessness, now they cannot fully relax. They cannot return to pretending with the same confidence. Because the fight revealed something irreversible. The truth was felt, even if not fully spoken. You are not here to be everyone's peace. Sometimes your role is disruption. Not destructive disruption. Awakening disruption. The kind that forces growth. Why some souls fear connection. Deep connection demands vulnerability. It requires transparency. It asks for surrender of ego. Not everyone is ready for that level of honesty. The shift from denial to awareness. First they denied it. Then they defended against it. Now they are aware of it. Awareness is the beginning of transformation. The responsibility of your light. Light attracts. Light exposes. Light clarifies. But light must remain disciplined, or it blinds instead of guides. Why you must not chase confession. If they admit it, let it be voluntary. If they realize it, let it be organic. If they approach, let it be sincere. Forced truth is unstable. The power of letting people process. Growth cannot be rushed. Realization cannot be demanded. Emotional maturity develops through reflection. Give space. The invisible elevation you are experiencing. Every time you refuse drama, you rise. Every time you remain grounded, you elevate. Every time you choose discipline, you strengthen your spirit. That is unseen victory. Why the fight was a turning point. Before the fight, everything was hidden. After the fight, everything is known internally. Even if no one speaks it aloud. Awareness changes dynamics permanently. You are becoming UNTTHRD to OUTCOMES. You no longer need them to admit anything. You no longer need validation. You no longer need clarity from external sources. You trust divine timing. When they start watching quietly, arguments are loud. Realization is silent. Now the observation begins. Subtle, intentional, curious. The importance of staying focused. This is not the time to slow down. Not the time to seek attention. Not the time to entertain ego games. Keep building. Keep refining. Why your growth will continue to trigger. Because evolution highlights stagnation. Because discipline exposes laziness. Because purpose unsettles distraction. You are walking in alignment. The final truth about the explosion. It was never random. It was never small. It was emotional pressure meeting spiritual reality. And at the center of it all was your undeniable impact.